a lot of the greatest victories happen after the worst failures.
This is great. We need the story. We need the tea.
Yeah.
I have had so many pivots in my early life. I am increasingly less scared of uncertainty.
But I love what you were saying around, really enjoying the mundane moments.
I had thousands of comments telling me it would be the worst decision I ever make.
This is giving me anxiety. I
No,
want to throw
it
my
is.
phone away.
But the wake-up call came when in my gap year, I lost.
Hello and welcome to the To My Sisters podcast. I'm Renee.
I'm Courtney.
And I'm Jade.
And we are
What's happening?
so excited to be talking all things adult relationships, pivoting, just being an awesome content creator, and also casual magic with none other than UnJaded Jade, aka Jade Bowler.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
We are so happy to have you on the podcast, Jade. Honestly.
Honoured to be here. Hi, sisters.
Hey, sisters. So for those of you that have not met Jade, also, what are you doing with your life? That's
Yeah.
actually quite upsetting. We had the privilege of having Jade at our last TMS live in London. And needless to say, but probably needing to say for those that don't know Jade, she was spitting bars.
Gems on
See,
gems on gems.
some of the lines that Jade dropped for us at that live show to this day are causing transformation. It's
Oh,
no,
stop.
genuinely.
Yeah.
But before we get into all the excitement of the podcast episode, Jade, would you do the honors of introducing yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jade. I am an ex-study tuber, which is how I think a lot of people first came to know me,
Yeah.
came to know my content. I started a YouTube channel when I was 16 because I was a very stressed GCSE student. I remember when I was doing my GCSEs, I came to YouTube just looking for advice, looking for study tips from an older student who'd gone through it, maybe had something to tell me because my parents didn't go to uni, didn't have an older sibling, and there was nothing. And so when I was 16, I decided to become that person for other people, started posting my study tips and study journey online. And since then, my content has evolved a lot over the years. I'm very passionate about mindfulness, about travel, about meeting people from all around the world and having this open-mindedness towards different cultures and introspection and kind of self-growth that can come from that journey. And I'm very excited to be here.
Oh,
It's an honor to have you.
honestly.
Honestly, you bring us so much joy. Like
Really,
even when
literally.
girl,
Um,
even when we were talking about who to bring to TMS Live last
Mhm.
year, we were like, Jade would be such an amazing addition because you're genuinely just a bundle of joy and
So much so.
light. Like it's very lovely and pleasant being around you, not necessarily because of any kind of performance, but because you carry such an authenticity and a calmness about you, which is just so attractive,
Yeah.
to be around. And
Thank you.
you are also incredibly young, right? And relatively.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, maybe decades and decades older than you and even older than us, may not have even had half of the experiences that you have had. And I wanted us to jump straight into that point of, like you said, people were mostly introduced to you as a study tuber, and a huge part of your studying journey was traveling and studying.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't get that kind of experience. And I recently saw you posted a reel where you were talking about when you tell people that you studied in six countries,
yeah.
6 countries,
Ooh,
they
child.
assume you're rich, kind of grew up with
Yeah.
a silver spoon. So I wanted to kind of talk about your background and growing up for you, and how that kind of framed your mind to have that awareness of the possibilities of traveling around the world for education, and whether it set you up for it or whether, that was something new to you in later stage of life.
Yeah, wow. It was never my intention growing up to study in 6 countries. I think that it was like a stroke of divine luck, divine timing that I was able to stumble upon that opportunity. I was raised just outside London, grew up there my whole life. My mum is Dutch, so I guess you could say that it gives me some more awareness of I don't know, other countries, international mindset. We'd grow up driving back to the Netherlands every year to see my family.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, as I said, my parents didn't go to university, and so I grew up honestly with no idea like what university really was, what it meant, what it looked like. I had no idea. Like I vividly remember when I was like 11, I think we were driving around, there was a family friend in the car, and they were like, oh look, there's some university accommodation. And I remember thinking, I have no idea what that means. Like what people like, I don't know, live there? Like, I have no idea. But I've always loved learning. I've always been so passionate about education. I was the child who would read constantly. Like my mum would take me to the library and I would always max out the number of books that you could get, which
Wow.
was 24 books. I would
Whoa. Oh, love that. Hang on a second.
Thought it was gonna be a comic like 4,
Whoa.
5 books, 24
24.
books.
I had this like little wagon thing.
Give me Matilda.
Yeah.
Yeah, my icon for real. Yeah. I had
Books on books.
Books that are incredible. I had these like shelves in my bedroom that were just for
Good.
library books, and I'd come in and like stack them all, and I was just
that
so
is
excited to read.
beautiful.
And actually,
So
most of my life, I wanted to be a vet. So
Wow.
yeah,
I can see that.
I can see that for
I
you
used
too.
to love animals.
Yeah, no,
I
I
went
can see that.
vegetarian when I was like 6. Like I always loved
Wow.
animals.
Yeah.
And I'd read all these books about animals and like anatomy and stuff. But yeah, when I was a teenager, my intention was to become a vet. That was main life goal. Like all my studying, that was the goal. My school holidays, I would work at like kennels, catteries, stables, any kind of animal place I could find. And then eventually had this like scary realization that I didn't want to become a vet through doing that work experience, having the big life crisis, having the big pivot, what do I do with myself? And I was studying maths, biology and chemistry at A level, so decided to study biology, applied to like all UK institutions, including Oxford, who rejected me, and we're not talking about that, but
I knew you were gonna look at me.
You have to say,
I
you missed out on a prodigy.
we're sorry.
Yeah, you guys can't talk.
I just knew the hate train today. Something in my spirit told me the hate train today. You know, we were gonna get there, and alas, we have gotten there so early.
It's him. Yeah.
Choo. Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, I feel like I'm rambling. I'm not even asking.
No.
This is your episode.
This is great. We need the
Shine.
story. We need the tea.
Yeah. Yeah. So then got rejected. Decided. Oh, did I whack it?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
I decided to take a gap year before university, and that was probably the most pivotal decision I've ever made in my entire life.
Talk about it.
Yeah, it felt very taboo to take the gap year because there was this stereotype. I don't know if it was just a thing in my school, but you only took a gap year if you were intending to retake or if you didn't really have a vision. Like there was not this trend of people taking a gap year to just like travel. It was not something that you did if you were more academic. And I was head girl of my school, and I remember
High achiever.
Jade was that girl.
I was giving Hermione.
Put some respect on her name, not the head girl. Chief bossette.
Sorry.
I love the hype. I love it. Yes, and I remember my head of sixth form sitting me down and being like, I've heard a rumor that you don't want to go straight to university. And I was so taken aback because I was intending to take the gap year. None of my friends were taking the gap year. And she was like, yeah, we normally put a photo of head girls on our wall, and underneath it we'll put the institution that they end up going to inspire other students to like go there. She's like, we don't want to put up that you've taken a gap year because we don't want to encourage people to take gap years. Yeah.
This was your head of six?
This is my head of six.
I hope they're eating their words right now.
That's crazy.
But I kind of like, I get it from the more I understand the school system. It's like school rankings are affected by how many people go to university.
Yeah,
right.
Right.
State school like are really dependent on kind of like those figures.
Yeah.
But it felt, I don't know, really like, it's sad that like
a disapproval.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy.
But it was the best decision that I've ever made. So I'm glad I did it. I won an Interrail pass from the EU to be able to travel.
What that is.
Yeah. Oh, so it's back when we were part of the EU. The last year.
When you said for the EU, I said, oh,
very bad.
I used it while it lasted.
Back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they had this competition where you could win a 1 month pass to travel around Europe for free. Yeah.
Wow.
And I'd never traveled, never backpacked,
Yeah.
was terrified of the idea of solo traveling, but applied for this on a whim. And then when I won that pass, and none of my friends, all my friends were at university, so none of my friends could come with me, it was like this scary realization that I would need to travel alone at 18,
Mm,
and that I was given this opportunity and I had to take it,
Yeah.
because who gets a free pass to travel, right? You have to
Yeah.
use
you
it.
have to,
You
yeah.
have to. And so literally like a month after finishing school, I went traveling around Europe, and I think that's the most life-changing thing I've ever done, because I was introduced to other cultures, people from all around the world, started to challenge like the perspectives I had on myself and Britishness and what that means, and realized that I was learning just as much, if not more, from travel than I had at like A level,
Wow.
and realizing like I need to do this more, I need to travel more. And yeah, I started across my gap year to feel this sense that I was not meant to go to University of Bristol to study biology, which is why I'd put on UCAS. And I realized that I wanted more out of
Mm,
university, but I didn't know what more could look like. Genuinely had no idea, like, what does that mean? Like, do I go to a university that will let me do a year abroad? Like, maybe that could
yeah.
be an option. Or I started to think maybe I could study abroad, but how does that work? Isn't that really expensive? Like,
Yeah.
what are those options like?
Yeah.
Especially with Brexit as well, like if I want to study in Europe, how would that work? And then I sat down with a friend at the peak of my crisis in my gap year, and she was like, Jade, I want you to detail to me everything you want in a university. This is what sisters are for, is in these
Right.
moments.
Hmm.
And I told her that I really wanted to be around an international, diverse student body who are really open-minded, really like-minded, willing to learn from each other and about the world. I wanted to study abroad somehow, like at least as part of the degree, and also as someone passionate about education and learning. I wanted a university that cared about the way they were teaching, kind of like
Mhm.
pedagogy. And the next day, I remembered this Instagram advert that I had seen when I was 15 about this new university they were building at the time called Minerva. And I thought, I wonder if that still exists. And I looked it up, and I had 3 days left to apply. And it just felt very like serendipitous, and it was
Yeah.
Wow.
everything that I'd wanted in a uni, like a cohort of 200 people from all around the world studying in 6 countries with the same cohort. The whole pedagogy was designed around the science of learning, like 4 years American system. And I applied and I got in, and
Wow.
it just changed the entire course of my
Chills.
And
life.
here we are.
Chills.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Chills.
I
So
love that.
beautiful.
And I feel like your story goes to show the power of just being confident in the decisions you make
Hmm.
and
Mm,
really standing by that. Because I can only imagine how discouraging it is to hear your school be like, we don't want to promote going on a gap year,
yeah.
and you still having to stick by that decision and be like, oh, but I am still a high achiever. I am still a really gifted student, but this is what I want to do. And I can imagine it provoked a huge amount of self-confidence, because
Mm,
now you're going to go and explore the world by yourself, and you don't necessarily have the support of everyone around you.
yeah.
So well done to you.
Honestly,
Well done
big
to you.
props. It's
Right.
To be a teenager?
Thank
such a beautiful
you.
thing. And I think
Crazy.
also, whilst you were doing it by yourself, you were also doing it with thousands of other people. Because
Yeah.
for those that
I was watched in my
for those,
uncertainty.
you know what I mean? For those that don't know, you had a really thriving YouTube platform
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of students were also looking to you for guidance, for
Mm,
support, for inspiration. So actually going through your pivot season and going through something that's drastically or if not radically different to what you were anticipating, whilst also sharing it on a platform
mm,
must have been so nerve-wracking, but the hope is that obviously it's produced confidence in you,
Yeah.
right?
that's
So
true.
I guess
That's
what was that
true.
experience like as well, right? It's the pivoting, but it's also the platform whilst you are pivoting, right? And
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of the sisters can resonate with this when it feels scary to pivot when you've got a lot on the line and you've
Yeah.
got all of this pressure on you, whether it's internal pressure, but also the very real external pressure of I have a community, or I have people that
Mm,
I'm riding for whilst I'm
Yeah.
making these decisions.
mm,
So how did you go through that process of pivoting, of changing, of dealing with rejection, especially when
mm.
it felt like the stakes were high?
Yeah.
Oh, such a good question. Um, it was hard. I'm
Mm.
not gonna lie. And I think back then, when I was like 16, 17, 18, I still had not formed my sense of self fully, right? I mean, it's constantly evolving, but
Mhm.
especially back then, I like lived more for like the opinions of others, right? Or I was like much more at the mercy of what people are thinking of me. And when I applied to Oxford, everyone loved that journey.
Mm.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I got an interview. Everyone's like, yeah, like rooting for you, like, wow, Jade, come on, you've got this.
Yeah.
And I'm sharing my study tips. I'm like working so hard. Like Oxford's a dream. It's so reputable. And then first blow was being rejected
Mm.
and having to share that. And um yeah, just feeling like I was disappointing not only myself and like my communities who supported me, but also this entire audience who had followed that journey. But I find when you lean into vulnerability in those situations, you do receive vulnerability back, right? Like you
Mm.
get people sharing their rejection stories,
Yeah.
their times of uncertainty, their pivot points, and that really eased any of the like big fear I felt in those moments, just realizing that like everything would be okay, I would be supported as long as I kept being vulnerable.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I actually think the hardest moment was when I decided to go to Minerva, this new university, because I had thousands of comments telling me it would be the worst decision I ever make.
What?
Yeah,
Whoa.
people saying it's a scam, people saying it's like it's only existed for like 5, 10 years, like why would you waste, you know, your potential and your academic abilities on a university that has no name? And I am so
Crazy.
so glad I decided not to listen to those comments. I was actually really close to
Mm,
not going because of them.
Understandably.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, I think
yeah,
16, 17,
yeah,
sorry, like 18. That is, your brain is not even fully formed yet. It's
yes.
Uh,
so malleable.
So
frontal
true.
lobe is
Frontal
like
lobe's got
not,
that
it's
connection.
just not there yet.
It
I
has
mean,
not come.
technically, mine's still not fully formed, right?
It doesn't till you're like 25,
Right,
26.
right.
Yeah, so don't worry. We're all
We're still,
Next year, like, I hope I
basically still
wake up at
children.
25 and I'm like, oh, everything
Coming
makes
out.
sense now.
it's all,
Yeah,
it's all coming together
No,
for
legit.
me.
yeah,
We've spoken about this on a few episodes where
Yeah.
it's like you just wake up one day and you're like, life makes sense now. I see.
really,
Yeah, no, for
yeah.
The
real.
clarity.
It's like just a
Wow.
sudden clarity, and you're like, wow, I think my brain has stopped developing. Like I'm
Yeah,
here. Hopefully you experience that.
please.
This is
But
not backed by any neuroscience, by the way. Can we
any,
just in case there's
no, no,
anybody
no.
that is taking that for gospel
Please
truth, please. We don't have the
verify that somewhere
qualifications. Yeah,
else.
yeah,
This is a different conversation.
yeah.
But yeah, when you're at that stage of life, your brain is still being formed, and a lot of where it gets its information from is from other people's opinions and
Mm,
other people's responses to you. So then to be bombarded with, like you said, thousands of comments of people being like, you're about to waste your future or waste your life, that shows a huge amount of resilience and headstrongness to look at those things and be like, I'm still going to go down this path that's assigned for me.
mm.
And you did the same thing with the gap year. And it's really giving Jade knows what she wants, so she's gonna go for it.
Mm.
And that's
I'm glad it's
really
giving that.
Big energy.
have you ever
In
felt
the
like
moment.
that's actually not been how you felt?
Do you know what? Every time I made those pivot points
Mm.
was when I sat in the worst uncertainty of all. I felt like I had no idea what I was doing. And it was only upon kind of listening to that gut feeling and just deciding to take the path
Yeah.
that in retrospect, everything has made so much
Mm.
sense.
Wow.
But in those moments, I've never felt sure. I'm a very
Yeah.
indecisive person.
So, but then how did you stick to it? How did you
Yeah.
decide that this is what I'm, because I think a lot of the sisters can relate when
Yeah.
things like that is happening. It's easy to be swayed by
Mm,
the majority
mm,
and the opinions that other
Absolutely.
people
yeah.
have. And even when you are connected to that intrinsic knowledge of this is what I want,
Yeah.
it's easy to dishonor that and
Yeah.
be like, whilst I know that's my desire, I want to please my parents or
Yeah.
my school or these thousands of people who are my online community who want me to do something else.
Mm,
How did you, in that uncertainty,
mm.
still stick with your own decision and your knowledge of what you wanted?
I think two main things. I think the first is being conscious of the sources that I was taking advice from.
Mm.
and like almost questioning if they were in a position to really be giving me that advice.
That's so good.
That
That is so you are you are so onto
wisdom.
something there. Run
Facts,
with
wisdom.
it, run with it. Mhm.
Because if I'm taking advice from someone who I'm inspired by, whose journey I want to go down, who's in a position that I want to be in, then that is advice that I should listen to,
Come on.
right? But if it's someone who maybe just projecting their fear onto me, or just I don't know, they have other motives that maybe they're not even conscious of. They think it's just advice, but there are the motives of like, oh, but I would miss you, or like, oh, I'm scared on behalf of you, or like all of the other things. Yeah, it's important to question whose advice we're hearing. We can hear everyone's, but we shouldn't listen to everyone's.
If you weren't at the live show, Jade has this habit of dropping serious quotables that you would print and stick on your wall.
Just minding your
So
business.
casually.
You'll be minding your
Wow.
business gingerly like this,
Say it
and then
again.
Jade will come and
Say it
say
again.
something that just
Oh my gosh. Not you
Guys,
killed
stop the
Tia.
hype! I can't have
no,
it.
no,
My
no, no,
ego,
no,
my
But it was
no.
so
ego.
good and
That
so
was
true.
so
You
good.
better.
You.
Oh, I think we've even distracted you. You said there was
I
a
said,
second
yeah,
point.
yeah. We told you about this derailing thing that we do. We gas just too much, then derail.
Yeah. Yes, that was point one. Point number two, know thyself.
You ain't lie.
You
You
ain't
ain't lie.
lie.
You ain't lie. So
Yeah, I love that.
Like, you have to cultivate your relationship with yourself.
right.
And I think there's many different ways to do this. Like, I can only speak for what works for me, but I have a lot of tools for introspection, like journaling,
Yeah.
right, where you just brain dump your thoughts, train of consciousness, I don't know,
Stream of consciousness.
stream of consciousness, stream it out. And yeah, you kind of like start to have an awareness of your subconscious thoughts, what you really want, like maybe the voices that are in your head that aren't yours, they're other
Yeah.
people's. I also really love yoga and meditation. Like, I'm so grateful I was able to find them at a relatively young age, because they've just really helped me cultivate like a good sense of self. It's like this idea of like coming back into my heart and like what matters, and yeah, this sense of like intuition that I think is really easy to suppress as we walk through the world, and we're fed so many different ideas of what we should be and what we should do. Like, coming back to that sense of self, asking what do I really want, what feels good, and not questioning too much whatever it's telling you to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. Jeez, you heard it here first, folks, from first book of Jade. That was
Oh
just, you
God.
heard it. You heard it here first. I think those points were really, really beautiful because I think it resonates so much with a lot of the women and a lot of the sisters within our community, right? This idea of knowing yourself and this idea of trusting yourself as well. I think it can be so scary to make a decision and have to deal with the consequences of that decision, right? It can sometimes even result in paralysis, or especially decision paralysis, right? Where you're kind of like, I don't really want to make this decision because I will now have to bear accountability for the consequences should it go wrong or should it go right. And we've spoken about this in some of our previous episodes, right? How fear can be something that stops us or holds us back. And something we wanted to touch on is fear of the future. So
It's cutting deep.
it's, it's giving definitely depth. But fear of the future, right? And this idea that the future is in our hands. And as women, especially in this day and age where it feels like we have a little bit more agency, we have more tools at our disposal, we have more potential tracks, but yet we are still dealing with the resistance of not just the external stuff, patriarchy, something we drop in this podcast every single now,
Love a bit
just
of
sprinkle a little bit,
patriarchy.
but also within ourselves, the fear
Yeah.
of dealing with those future consequences, the fear of really being ourselves out in the open, really succeeding, but also the fear of failing. So, how did you deal, or how do you continue to deal with the murkiness that can often feel like the future?
Wow. Oh, Gosh, so many things. I think one of the things that's helped me the most is to understand that failure is never failure. Because I think so much of what holds us back is this fear of failing, right? This fear of like, if I took the gap year, would that be the worst decision of my life? Would I be like a laughing stock? Would I get that I told you so from everyone? If I went to this university and it did turn out to be a scam, would I have to face a community of thousands of people telling me that I have no idea what's good for me? Um, but yeah, I think just realizing that you are so much more than the decisions that you make, I think is useful, because then it allows you to like cultivate this like sense of intrinsic value within yourself. Like you are so much more than like all the external things that might happen.
Yeah.
And that kind of empowers you to just try, to like put yourself out there, to take the risks, to like place bets on yourself and just see what happens. And if you fail, to realize that you will still have so much worth in those moments too, and that like every failure is just a learning. Yeah, like I actually wish that women embrace failure more. I wish we were taught to fail. I think so often we are raised to be like good girls, you know, who are like perfect. We're raised to be perfect. We're raised to like look perfect, be perfect, smile nicely, and like make people feel comfortable. And I think boys are like allowed to be messy and be loud and like mess up, and that it's just it's part of being a boy. And I think that allows them to come into adulthood and take more risks because they're not scared of failing. And I think as women, we should really empower each other's failures. We should have like celebratory failure parties, you know, like, oh my God, you tried and you failed, and I'm so proud of you for trying.
I would love to receive a cake for that.
Yeah.
I would love to receive a cake for
Everything should be spelt wrong.
Not congratulations with a K.
Do you know what I mean? And then a Z at the end.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
You failed.
Yeah, with a Z at the end. I love it.
And it's something we say, you know, it's like just because you fail doesn't make you a failure. And really
Yeah.
knowing that like your identity is not in the failing, because failure actually presents an opportunity for a lot of learning. Like a lot of the greatest victories happen after the worst failures, because you need to experiment and know what doesn't work in order to know what will work. And I love that you highlighted that, because women are socialized not to fail. Perfectionism, superwoman syndrome, like we're riddled with it because we have to be perfect. We're kind of taught that like failure has enormous social consequences. Like your failure here can ruin your reputation for life. So don't, you know, or your failure here can ruin your prospects for marriage. So don't do that.
Yeah, like this, the sense of permanence.
It's like you will be Scarlet A, right? It's like you are going to be marked for the rest of your life, when actually that's not how life works. And I love that you highlighted being around people who can celebrate that, because the only way that Scarlet A gets branded on you is if other people uphold this view of your failure and will not let you grow past it. If people keep reminding you of that time you failed, you can never lose that part of your identity. So you actually need to be around people who do not hold that over your head as well, but allow you to actually move past it. But then talking about fear of the future, like you said, even when you're introducing yourself, you're an ex-study tuber. And I can only imagine, obviously you recently graduated. We love our graduates. We love our graduates. I can only imagine the anxiety that you were filled with upon graduating and realizing a lot of your content has been about education. And now you're no longer in like formal education. What does the future of your content look like, and the future for you as a creator, as well as just this amazing being on the internet who makes the internet such a bright place?
So sunny. Genuinely.
Literally.
Feels like when I go on like Jade's videos, it's like, sunshine. You know what I mean? Like it's like I've turned on the light. It's really nice.
It's nice.
Great stuff.
God, so complimentary. You know what? My love language is words of affirmation, and I am
you are
not
in the right place.
disappointed today.
You are in the right place.
One thing you'll
that.
get on this podcast:
Listen.
affirmation.
Affirmation. I love it. Future of my content. I think because I have had so many pivots in my life, in my early life, I am increasingly less scared of uncertainty. And coming out of university, I decided to actually just go home, right? To not jump into like a brand new career, to not go all in on like my social media and find the next study tube and instantly have it all figured out. I actually realized I'm kind of burnt out. It's been a big degree. I wrote a book during my degree as well,
You
like
did.
managed the YouTube channel, lived in 6 places. Just it was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot. And I think being able to recognize it was a lot and then truly let myself rest was a huge, like, empowering decision I made, because I just went back to my hometown, went to my childhood bedroom, and I said, it is fine that I have no idea. And I almost like, so you've got to think about your personal brand a little bit, right? Like, oh, I was a study tuber, like, what am I now? And I almost let myself adopt the identity of Jade in uncertainty. That's my brand now. And that can also be an empowering brand for people. I think we need to normalize that as a high achiever, you can also have no idea what you're doing. You're still worthy of success, like whether you're on like a specific trajectory or not. Like you're allowed to step off the trajectory, have a little breather, be like, what do I actually want? And still have worth. And yeah, this whole year has just been a year of so much internal growth, so much internal challenge, a year of like a lot of therapy, a lot of changes in my personal life, a lot of working on my relationship with my parents in new ways, questioning what I want to do with myself, work wise, where I want to be, who I want to be surrounded with. Like it's been like a lot of adult questions that don't have a lot of like celebratory, tangible answers. And I think as someone on social media, you like to have the celebratory answers.
Yeah.
So it's been hard not having those. But in this next chapter of me, I realized that I really value mindfulness. And it's kind of been a hidden theme of everything that I've ever done with StudyTube.
Right.
Yeah, like caring about students' mental health, wanting them to feel more relaxed when they have an exam, encouraging young people to meditate and like have this better sense of self through tools of introspection. So I'm leaning into that for now, and we'll see.
We'll
It's
see
going
where
to
it goes.
evolve.
We'll see.
Love that.
This might actually be a really good opportunity to talk about some of the upcoming things that are
Yes.
also being produced by the wonderful Jade. Something along the lines of casual magic,
Yes.
which is a really fantastic phrase that Jade has been sharing over the course of the last few kind of months or years. And this idea of enjoying the mundane or finding the beauty in the mundane. So, speak to us about what we can look forward to quite imminently.
Mm. Yes. So, yes, this concept of casual magic is something I've carried through all the chapters of me online, and is this idea that most of the time we wait for the 1% of days in life to be happy, the extraordinary days, right? Like the birthday, the job promotion, the wedding.
Yeah.
We have so much anticipation about those days. But 99% of our lives are spent in really average, mundane routines. I just think it's so sad that we wouldn't find a way to really romanticize and enjoy those 99% of days. And this idea of casual magic is finding magic in the casual, like romanticizing just the beauty in the mundane every day. And I am starting a podcast.
We love that around here.
You know what I'm saying?
We love
This is
that
Hopefully,
me
you heard
teaching
that
right
here
now
first.
today. Teach me your ways. I'm looking at the setup. I'm learning from you as interviewers, big role models. Yeah, so it's called Finding Your Casual Magic, and it's going to be alternating episodes where one episode will be a solo episode, another will be a guest episode, exploring all kinds of themes related to this intersection of being an ambitious person who wants to do incredible things in the world, but also genuinely wants to be content,
Yeah.
and how our authentic joy can sometimes be in opposition
Mm.
to the illusion of success. And I want to
There she go
interview
again.
people.
No.
There she go again.
It's so deep because it's so true.
Mhm.
When you are a
Yeah.
highly ambitious person, the mundane feels like the failure.
Yeah.
It's like
True.
nothing is happening,
Yeah.
so I must be doing something
Yeah.
wrong. And it's like, actually, this is the majority of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that you said it. It's like mundane routine. And that's
Mhm.
actually what builds towards those big successes,
So
right?
true.
Yeah.
But those are those like quantifiable celebratory moments
Yeah.
that people can come, they bring the cake, they bring the card, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, like everything makes sense, all the hard work was worth it. But no one's there cheering for you when you've just consistently woken up at whatever time and had
Yeah.
your coffee,
You
and
got 8 hours of
you
sleep.
know,
Yeah.
way well done in fact, they'll call you lazy.
And
Yeah.
Hustle culture.
they'll say
Eight
that
Yeah.
you should have
hours
woken up at least 4 hours ago.
Yeah.
waste of
Crack of
space.
dawn. Yeah.
Crack of dawn and
Yeah.
you're still snoring.
How are you gonna make a million?
So true.
Do you get what I mean? 8 hours of
Yes.
sleep.
Yeah.
God, boo, tomatoes. 0 out of 10.
Yeah.
Um, legit though.
No, it's so
Legit.
true.
Sorry, just this
Yeah.
mental
Yes.
image of someone throwing a tomato at you as you wake up. Like, I'm waking up at
Do you know
6:45.
what I mean? Because
Tomato.
especially because people will post their morning routine and they've actually conquered the world and
Oppressive.
climbed Mount Everest
Amen.
by the time
Oppressive.
you've woken
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Oppressive.
Yeah.
It's very oppressive. So this idea of like the casual life that we all live, like even your favorite, most inspiring YouTuber is living a casual and mundane
Yeah.
life
Life.
most of the time.
Yeah.
And just because, you know, they get to post the highlights on Instagram doesn't mean that mundaneness is not taking place.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
love that, especially because I think for people who are listening, it's easy to listen to people like us and think every day is like that.
Yeah.
And then want your
Yeah.
life to reflect that. When
Yeah.
actually our life is probably as mundane as yours.
Ah,
It's just that our successes are
100%.
platformed more
Yes.
public than yours.
yeah.
And so for somebody listening, how do you go about embracing casual magic? Obviously, like give us a teaser.
Mm. Okay. I think it is about training your brain into the habit of noticing small beauty. So I think you can start really like with the obvious things. So say you're walking along a summer night and you look up in the sky and the sun is setting and the sky is like lavender and rose colored and just gorgeous. Like the gradient is just like, it's stunning. Like it's very easy in those moments to kind of reflect and be like, you know, I'm grateful to be alive today.
Yeah.
And to me, like those are the moments that are casual magic, right? Like a sunset is completely free. Like you didn't have to go and view it. It was going to be there whether you were there or not. It's casually magic. And I think taking that feeling that you get from that beautiful thing and trying to project it onto things that are maybe less tangibly beautiful, like having your herbal tea in the morning, in my case. Like I love my tea. It's a habit. I've drank my tea, you know, my whole life. But just taking that like one extra tiny moment to express gratitude and think that's actually it's really special that I get to have this. Yeah.
It's so
Oh,
true.
I love that so much. 'Cause listen, I'm a coffee person,
Yeah.
so like that morning coffee, like
Yeah.
ugh, I don't know if it's like associated with like getting older, but I feel like the older you get, you're just oh wow.
Yeah, it's the
Things
little
are so
things.
beautiful. Like, oh, I had time to
Yeah.
make my coffee this morning, and
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the way that I so tangential, but I got a milk frother, and that
Oh
has
yeah.
brought me so
Level up.
much. That has brought me so much joy. Literally, it was like $5.99 on Amazon at the time. It has brought me so much joy because now I get like frothy milk on top of my
Mm,
coffee. But I love what you were saying around, really enjoying the mundane moments, the beauty and the awe in the mundane, because
yeah.
honestly, it is such a beautiful thing to be alive. It's a beautiful thing to be able to
Yes.
have routines. It's a beautiful thing to
Yeah.
be able to rest in the mundaneness,
Yeah.
right? So I love that you said that. And I also love what you were saying earlier around the reality of adulting and having to
Mm,
confront certain things and
mm,
certain elements about your life that may have been challenging but are also super necessary.
Yeah.
And it's often something that we talk about on this podcast too. We are a podcast that is very much around relationships. We are very much
mm,
around community. We are
mm,
very much big on maintaining those relationships, but also
yeah.
creating spaces for us to thrive as women within our relationships, right? So for you, as a YouTuber, as somebody that has been platformed, as somebody that has gone through that journey, what does it look like for you to intentionally take the time to either build, mend, or maintain your relationships? And how has it developed and how have you prioritized it over time?
Mm. I used to be the worst friend. Or like I used to be a very good in-person friend, but
Ah,
a really poor texter, caller,
Please, I need this
effort.
part. I need this part.
Said
This
it's a
part is
personal.
actually for me because that's where
That's
I'm at right
personal.
now.
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
great in-person
Yeah.
friend, but as soon as I leave you,
Yes. Yeah. They're going to be questioning their whole existence. Like,
You guys are
yeah.
some Mary Poppins friends. Just
as soon
Just
as
a-
I'm out of here,
Yeah.
the umbrella.
Like, I will be present with you when we're in person.
Legit.
Like,
And
I
then-
will hold you in everything. I will create good space, and I will leave, and I'll never reply to your text again. No, that was me. That was past me. I've healed this pattern.
Reveal, please.
Speak to us. Speak to us.
Yeah, I think a few things went into that. One of which was having a YouTube channel and having a million notifications every day, and like going on my phone and that feeling like such an exhausting place because I'm getting so many comments and DMs and almost like I almost read it sometimes through the lens of productivity, like it's actually productive for me to like respond to comments because I'm like building a community, but replying to my friend about like their love life. I don't know, like it's even though it's that my entire mindset on this has shifted so much, like that is so much more essential.
Yeah.
But at the time, didn't feel it. And I think also I was very avoidant. And I think I was someone who, so to be honest, it's very British.
Yeah.
Or an indirect culture. Like the second anything like got a little like deep or like I felt guilty, for example, not replying for like a week, rather than dealing with those feelings of guilt, I'd just run. I'd be like, I cannot handle that I have not replied to you for like a week. And so it goes to a month or it goes to like 6 months because I don't want to do the apology, you know? And then they like come back in and they're like, Jade, are you okay? Like, you know, just reaching out, like they're not even pressuring me. It's just like an internal pressure that I put on myself. It's like perfectionism that I'm trying to bring to the way of texting. And so my avoidance meant that I would rather end a friendship than have a conversation about my habits in that friendship.
Jeez.
Ooh. But the wake up call came when in my gap year I lost basically all my friends from secondary school.
Wow.
Because when you see your friends in contextual settings every day, like we exist in this context of school, convenience, you don't have to put in like effort that's maybe like a nuisance for you. And so I always was a great friend and then would just never reply to their messages in the gap year, and then these friendships fizzled out, and it was like this like mini like heartbreak that I knew was like fully me having done that. And then I went to university and all my friends were from all around the world and I was the only one from the UK. And it dawned on me in the summers that one day the feeling of summer, when we all go back to like our home countries or all doing internships all scattered around the world again, that is how my life is going to be after uni. And however I'm maintaining my friendships in the summers is how my friendship is going to be when I end uni. And if I don't feel close to my uni friends by the end of summer, I will not feel close to them when real life happens. And so in like second, third year summers, I basically realized I have to learn the skill of being a good friend, a good long distance friend. And I have to admit that I'm rubbish at it right now. And I can ask for help. I can ask my friends. I can say like, I'm so sorry. Like, here's what happens when I don't reply to you for a week. I get these big feelings of guilt, which makes me not want to reply to you. And like the way that you can help me out is send me like a casual text, right? Like a low expectation text to help me back into that conversation. And the most life-changing thing that I now do, which I recommend to every sister listening and to Courtney.
Thank you. I was actually taking mental notes. I was like, how am I going to implement? Yeah.
Is recurring scheduled calls.
You know what? There you go.
Recurring scheduled calls have changed my life and changed my friendships. So I have a recurring call with all my closest friends, and they're set different amounts of time based on the level of closeness, based on the level of capacity we have. So my best friend, she lives in Vietnam. I call her every single Friday at 10 a.m. and I have called her every single Friday since university ended. I've not seen her for over a year and a half, and I still feel extremely close to her. And especially if you're not a texter, this reduces all the friction of like, when are you free? How's your schedule looking?
It's the end of
It's the worst, especially
Really
time zones.
Oh,
You give up.
mate.
Okay,
Give up. 8 hour time zone, give up.
She said you guys are on the same landmass and it's still annoying.
You're like, you're both in London.
No, but it's hard.
get
Like
it. I get
7
it.
back-to-back
Yeah.
texts to be
Yeah,
like,
no,
can you
it's
do this date? No.
no,
Can you
no,
do?
no.
Yeah.
Yes. And you lose momentum, you're done.
Yes.
Or you try to meet up once, one person cancels, lost momentum, you're done. And I think having the schedule call, it just takes away all the friction.
Yeah.
Because you have a date in the calendar. Like I
Yeah.
have some friends every 6 weeks it's in the calendar, or every 2 months, or every 6 months even.
Yeah.
But it's just there so that you feel this level of closeness because you both put in that mutual effort to decide that time, and it's
Yeah.
going to come around, it's going to remind you of them at some point. And that's how I maintain all my closest friendships, and how I feel like I have the best community. I feel so poured into. I feel like I pour deeply into the people I love,
Yeah.
and it's just changed my life. And now I can proudly say that I am a good friend, and I believe that I am a good friend.
Just, you know what? You've changed my life. I needed
No, no.
that. No. I needed that. No,
Stop.
because you know what? Yeah. Friendships are hard.
They're
They are.
hard.
No,
It's
they're
And I
hard.
think when your friends also know you've got a book on friendship, it's
Yeah.
like,
Oh my god, the irony, right?
it's
Yeah.
giving ironic,
Yeah.
hypocritical.
That's how people will now come and do a, what do you call it, a smear campaign against you.
Against me. And it's been, no, like in all vulnerability, it's actually been a huge sense of anxiety for me because I get
Yes.
very overwhelmed by text
Yeah.
messages.
I get it.
Messages, like there are very few people I can text back to back, and it has to be like an immediate thing.
Yeah.
If I do not
Yeah.
reply to your notification
Yeah.
whilst it's on my screen,
You're not
and
coming
that
back. It's
not
30-second
happening.
window is done,
Not happening.
that window is gone
Mhm.
Not
forever.
happening.
And it's been a source of anxiety because obviously that's how a lot of people communicate, and it's
Yeah.
easy to communicate, but I am a call person.
Mhm.
If me and you say we're going to have a call at 10 a.m. on
Mhm.
Friday, I am there on
Yes.
the link.
Yeah.
At
Google Meet.
This is true.
9:55,
This is
I am
true.
there on the
Yeah.
link. So it's just like also getting people adjusted to that, like
Yeah.
getting people adjusted to this is how I work,
Yeah.
and can we meet somewhere in the middle?
Mhm.
So it's actually been good to hear that that can actually run
Yeah.
in a friendship, and you don't have to, because I always ask myself, is there something wrong with me? Like,
Mm.
is there something wrong with me that I can't understand? But then it's like when you open your phone and you see 300
It's the
notifications, or
worst.
you see
Feels like a chore. Admin.
10,000 emails, it feels like admin. Like the other day I talked to someone the night before, just sent them a message. I went back to message them the next day. Why was their message so far down? It's like, I just sent you a message
Mhm.
yesterday, and this is how many people have messaged me today, like
Yeah.
in just the early hours of the morning. This is giving me anxiety. I
No,
want to
it
throw my phone
is.
away.
100%.
It is.
So I think that's the
100%.
reality of adult friendships that people don't talk about. That like, yes, it's about intentionality, but that intentionality sometimes has to take a different form.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And all of us need to come to this place of like agreement that that's okay.
Yeah.
That
And like understanding your needs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
And
think
communicating
and
that.
communicating that,
Yeah.
which is again very not British.
It's we're so stiff
Yeah.
upper lip, and it's actually so
Yes.
embarrassing.
But that's that international lens. That's why traveling is so important.
Yeah, you're actually so
That's the
right.
international lens, because you don't know these things are cultural
Yeah.
until you
You-
leave these borders, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know what makes sense? Honesty. It's like that makes sense. No, but real rap. I
This
think
has been good.
like genuinely what really resonated with me was that honesty.
Yeah.
I am actually a bad friend. Like it's such a difficult phrase to say, right? Or like I've really messed up here. And I think sitting with the discomfort of not being a perfect person, like when you were talking about avoidance and perfectionism, it was ring ring. The call is for Renee. Like literally, the call is for Renee, and the recipient is in the room. And just the necessity of having to face relationships head on as well, right? It's funny because relationships can often be the places that we think we can hide the most, when these require us to be the most transparent in order for them to actually progress. And in that transparency, it also requires us to hold up a mirror to ourselves, because that's what relationships do. We often talk about marriage in that way, right? That marriage often holds up the mirror as to who you are. But I think our friendships often are also showing us a small angled mirror as to these are imperfections here, and these are the ways that we can actively overcome them. So I love that you actually came to a place where you could be honest, because I think that honesty, that transparency, that vulnerability of saying, I'm actually not as good as I think I am or I thought I was, opens the door for you to have a thriving relationship, because it means that your friend can actually meet you where you're at, not where you think you're at. but actually where you are.
Mm.
This episode has been so good.
Man,
Jade, you are the gift that keeps on
Oh,
giving. No,
guys.
for real. And
present
I
box,
I
love
think
it.
people don't realize, well, actually, no. Million. I was about to say people don't realize you have like nearly 1 million
Do you know what
subscribers.
I'm saying?
So
Like
people realize
they
millions
see
of
something.
people. Millions of people have
Yes,
realized that
truly.
you are a wealth of wisdom. You're
Ah.
actually a well of wisdom. No, for real. And I
Yeah.
think it's so beautiful because you can tell these things have come through life experience. And I'm sure there's a depth of experience that people haven't seen because it hasn't been on camera.
Yeah.
And as much as you appear very joyful and like we said you're this ball of light in a room, I'm sure there's been really dark times and really hard times
Yeah.
behind that have birthed this kind of maturity and
Mm.
wisdom that comes from life experiences. And I'm just so grateful that even through it all you've come out as such a shining person, like not even just in your successes, but that you still radiate light
Mm-hmm.
to everybody who comes in contact with you, even though life might have been dark for you in the past. So you are so appreciated. Like in the sisterhood,
Yep.
you were the glowing star of Hackney Empire's show.
Literally.
Like we should have
Literally.
put you as the headliner.
Yeah, truly.
No,
We
no,
were the
no.
supporting acts, I'm
For
telling
real,
you.
you said things that resonated in people's spirit for a really, really long time. And as much as we're saying like it's these casual drops, you can tell they didn't come from a casual place. It comes from a place of depth.
Yeah.
It comes from a place of, like you said, a huge amount of self-awareness and knowing yourself and trusting yourself. And I just pray that that continues in you
Mm-hmm.
everywhere that you
Thank
go,
you.
because you're literally just getting started.
Mm-hmm.
Like mid-20s, frontal lobe hasn't even fully, and this is where you're
Connected.
at. You're about to change the world
Yeah.
for real.
Oh.
And yeah, it's an honor to know you. It's an honor to have you be here. And before guests leave, we get them to drop a little nugget, a
Mm.
little to my sisters for the sisters listening.
Mm-hmm.
And so the mic is yours. Drop us something.
To my sisters, I think the main message I want to give you is that you are enough exactly as you are. I think it's very tempting when we're ambitious, when we have big goals, when we want to make things happen, when we want to be the perfect friend, to see that we're not there yet and to like berate ourselves for this half-formed version. But I just want to remind you that you are exactly enough right now, and that every lesson you need is in the present. Everything you could ever hope for, wish for is in the present. You just need to look around and notice it.
Well,
Well,
they call that a wrap. We're out there.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Honestly, Jade, we love you. Like,
I
Thank you.
yeah,
adore
we
you
genuinely
We
adore
guys.
you.
do.
No,
And
really, like you guys inspire me so much. The way that you
Thank
operate
you.
with so much
Stop,
heart and
stop.
soul.
I'm blushed.
But you can feel it. You can feel it. The way that you guys create space. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but it feels like it's just us in the room.
Yeah.
The way that even like you hold eye contact, like it's these little things that make me feel incredibly seen and held, and make me feel like I can be my authentic self in this space. So thank you.
It's okay.
Yes.
It's actually okay. We're
Just
glad to get that feedback.
you know what I'm saying? Rate the podcast 5 stars as
5
you're
stars,
listening
right?
Yeah.
to this episode. But honestly, Jade, it has been such an
Thank
honor to
you.
have you to drop you with a little quick prayer, something that we like to do. It's a practice that we have here at TMS just to express our love for you, but also yeah, just speak life into you and also just make sure that you are starting this next chapter of your life with all the blessings and all the favor that you have. So, Heavenly Father, we thank you for the life of Jade. We thank you that you have kept her thus far, and we thank you that she has been a sparkling, radiant figure in the lives of many. And we really just pray that you will continue to go with her as her shine just continues to radiate in all the spaces that she has been called to. And even as she has exhibited so much wisdom, so much knowledge, and just so much grace with the work that she does, we really pray that this would increase in intensity, it would increase in depth, it would increase in even its bigness, and that you would enable your shine to really envelop her so that she she may be able to continue to shine on others. We also pray that as it pertains to mindfulness and productivity and areas where many are even struggling with that right now, we pray that you would reveal your blueprint to her and continue to reveal that blueprint so that she may be able to go and help others, to inspire others, to continue to do that work in other people. And we even just pray over her relationships. Lord, we thank you for the self-awareness. We thank you for the love. We thank you for the community of people that she has around her. And we even just pray that that love would continue to envelop her in this next chapter of her life, that she may know love that is beyond description, and that even in her adoration of the beauty of the things that you have created, that almost childlike, wistful gratefulness that she has cherished in her heart, Lord, we just pray that that would blossom to a new realm and to a new level in this next season. And we also just pray for blessings and favor to be in her life during this time. We pray that you would open many doors for her and to her, that she may be able to let that light shine before others. We pray in the Lord's name.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
Amen. We love you. We really
Dearly.
do. Please, we have to
Dearly.
come back because there's a whole conversation about dating
Yeah.
that we need to have
We
with
need
you.
to we need to
I
we
have,
didn't
guys, I have
scratch the
too much to
surface.
share.
That's why we need
I
two
have
more
too much
episodes
to
from you.
It's giving part 2. It's
It
giving
is.
literally part 2.
No, it's an honor to have had you on the
Truly.
To My Sisters podcast. This is not going to be the last time you are going to be around, so it's not going to be the last time you see Jade. But before she comes here, you can catch up with her across all socials. And as soon as her podcast comes out, we will let the Sisterhood know, so you
100%.
can go and run up those downloads and the 5-star ratings. You already know how we do. We have a culture. We have an unspoken agreement.
That's
here.
right.
5 stars podcast delivery. So, sisters, we hope that you enjoyed this episode. Please do connect with Jade on all social platforms, and also connect with the Sisterhood at To My Sisterhood on every social platform. We have memes, we have polls, we have you chiming in on dilemmas. It's fun over on To My Sisters socials. And you can also follow us individually. My lovely co-host to my right at Renee Kapuku, and you can follow me at CD Boating.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. And also don't forget to sign up to the mailing list. If you want those weekly tidbits of wisdom, the glowing and growing tips, then you have to be a sister on the mailing list, and you can sign up over at www.tomysisters.com.
To see it. Sisters, we hope that you've loved this episode. There is so much more to come from us, so make sure that you do stay locked in. But until we see you next time, keep
Glowing and growing.